Healy is also video recording the program, and the video will be posted on the club website under videos, so you can look for it there as well. And let me welcome you to the 479th in our series of distinguished speaker programs. I'm Dave Michael, your club president, but I also would like, while we're doing that, our two previous winners of the award to stand and be recognized, past President Jack Mel and Governor Mixon. If you would both stand and be recognized. Congratulations. And now our award winner this year is General Larry Snowden. Let me introduce him, if I could, with this short video about General Snowden. If you'll look at it.
Larry has always been a dedicated speaker to anyone that would ask him, from the most modest forums to those at the national level, the regional level, both military and civilian. And those who have heard him speak will never forget it.
We are shaped by the experiences that we have as we grow older, and his ability to respond to negative events in his life with a positive response has been, in my judgment, a reflection of what a wonderful character he is, and how blessed I am to have had the opportunity to visit him.
You know, the Marine Corps is always looking for a few good men. And they found one in General Snowden. And we're blessed by that. Not only in our club, but in our country. I would commend to you all, if you have not seen it, it's been playing this week, nationally, on Public Broadcasting Network, here in Tallahassee on WFSU, the documentary entitled Iwo Jima, From Combatant to Comrade. It is touching, memorable, and further tells the story of a great American. So with that, it's my high honor and privilege to recognize the 2015 Stan Tate Memorial Award winner, General Lawrence Snowden. And on his, he's unable to be with us today, but in his behalf, the General has asked General Webb to accept that. And I also want to thank Evolution Media for their time and talent to put together this video for us today. But with that, help me recognize General Snowden for his acceptance.
I read the following statement from past Chairman General Larry Snowden. Ambassador Sasae, President Micah, Emeritus Chairman Mao, Emeritus Chairman Mixon, Economic Club members and guests. I am truly honored to be the recipient of the Stan Tate Award, and I regret that health issues make it infeasible for me to be there to receive it in person. It was my personal privilege to know and work with Stan Tate. As one of the founders of the club, he was my tutor about the history of the club. He encouraged me to run for office and set the example for dealing with the important people who came to speak to our club. I was grateful for his advice and counsel. I am very proud to join Jack Mowell and Wayne Mixon as a recipient of this award. To the extent my health issues allow, I hope to contribute to the continued success of the club as it goes forward. Thank you, General Webb, for representing me today. Roger that, General. Thank you.
Congratulations to our previous winners to us, and again to General Sasae. It's now my honor to introduce our distinguished speaker. Ambassador Sasae was appointed the Ambassador of Japan to the United States of America in November 2012 after serving as the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan in Tokyo. He completed some of his academic studies right here in the United States at Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania. His initial foreign assignment was as first secretary at the Embassy of Japan in Washington, D.C. back in 1984. In 1983, he was posted in London as Counselor Embassy of Japan there, and he also held a position as the Research Associate in International Institute for Strategic Studies. The following year, in 1994, he became the Special Advisor to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Geneva for 3 years. In April of 2000, he was appointed Executive Assistant to the Prime Minister of Japan, and we spoke of some of his interactions with then President Bush. He was appointed Executive Assistant to the Prime Minister then, and during his post in Tokyo before the Vice Ministerialship, he served as Director General of the Economic Affairs Bureau, Director General of the Asian Oceania Affairs Bureau, Deputy Foreign Minister and G8 Political Director, as well as Chief Japanese Negotiator to the Six-Party Talks. Please join me in a warm welcome to the Economic Club of Florida, and welcome General Ambassador Sasae.
Thank you, President Michael. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here in Tallahassee. And I also want to thank the former President Ms. Dixon, and also Mr. Mowell, and also the Major Harding, and other former president, and also ladies and gentlemen of the great renowned prestige. When I had staff meeting before district, I asked my staff what does Tallahassee mean, and no one knew actually. But somebody thought it was a football mascot. And an American friend told me later on that was not too bad a guess. But I'm delighted to be here for many reasons. One, possibly the most compelling reason for me to be here is that I'd like to see my friend, General Sasae, and he invited me to speak to you today. He was talking about this idea for more than a year ago. And I told him that I'd like to go and meet with you in a town where you live. And I don't spend too much time how I came to know him. But today, I could say that he's one of my best friends in the United States. I really developed my affections throughout my meeting with him and talking with him, not only his upbringing and his experiences during the war, but also how he thinks about the life. They were very much heartwarming all the time. And part of my affection to him is also his age. He's around 94, I think, at this juncture. And around the same age my father is. And I felt like he's looking like my father, you know. I'm also old enough, actually. And his age reminds me of my father. And he, I'm sorry that he could not attend today, because I know he will be here if he possibly could. But I still want to tell you why I so admire him. As you know, this year, Japan and the United States celebrate 70 years of peace and reconciliation since the end of the World War II. And as I go around the country speaking to groups, I always talk about General Snowden. I talk about him as a dramatic example of how far our two nations have come. When Prime Minister Abe addressed a joint session of Congress in April, he introduced General Snowden, who was sitting in the balcony of the House. This was joint session of Congress. 70 years ago, as a young captain, he landed on Iwo Jima, as was shown on this video. And today, he's the oldest survivor of that battle. Sitting next to the general in the balcony of the Congress that day was Mr. Yoshitaka Shindo. He's a member of Japanese Diet and the grandson of General Kuribayashi, and the commander of the Japanese garrison during the Battle of Iwo Jima. This was moving and meaningful to see. The Prime Minister said in his speech before the Congress, "What should we call this if not a miracle of history? Enemies that fought each other so fiercely have become friends, bonded in spirit." He said this. General Snowden has been a major force for reconciliation between the two countries and two different eras. And he was sitting there and listening to Prime Minister's speech. I was sitting somewhere in the theater and looking up for him. He was always nodding and watching Prime Minister speaking. So I could share the sense about the affections to the relationship between Japan and the United States, and also Japan. I'd like to once again thank him for the contribution General Snowden has made to our vital relationship. Over these last 70 years, the United States and Japan have sought a world based upon values of democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights, and the market economy. And the world itself has changed over the decades. And the Japan-US alliance has also had to evolve and adjust in order to maintain those values. In April, the Japan-US defense guidelines were revised. Last month, the Diet Japanese Parliament passed this legislation that allows Japan to exercise the so-called collective defense. Ladies and gentlemen, the new guidelines and this new legislation will transform our alliance. We will take it to a new level and ensure that we can address the security challenges of the future. Japan will now be able to do more actively into the peace, stability, and prosperity of Asia Pacific and beyond. This is important because we face, as you know, various challenges in Asia, particularly with the rise of China and the nuclear and missile issues in North Korea. They are not a theoretical concern and danger. Day by day, I think we Japanese feel more directly the threat coming from the north or somewhere else. But since this is an economic club, let me talk about the economic relationship between Japan and the United States, and Japan and the state of Florida. Over 100 years ago, the first Japanese citizens came to Florida to help build the railroad in southeast Florida. Today, nearly 14,000 Japanese live in Florida. Over 200 Japanese businesses have offices and facilities here. Japanese companies employ over 20,000 Floridian Floridians, you call, and many more Floridians that indirectly employed. Japan is one of the top foreign investors in Florida. And according to a State of Florida report, as of November 2013, Japanese firms have invested over $4 billion. The more Japanese companies learn about Florida, the more they like it. In 2001, Mitsubishi Hitachi Power Systems, America split up from its parent company and opened its headquarters in Poland. The company initially had just 25 employees. Today they employ 1,400 people. Governor Scott, I met him some time ago, and he has twice visited the company and greatly praised its growth. He was attending the company's opening ceremony and for their new office in Lake Mary, despite this event taking place just before the gubernatorial elections. In September, the governor visited Sato Global Solutions, which is a Japanese company that recently moved in Florida. And he also gave them a warm and personal welcome. I want to thank Governor Scott for all he has done to welcome and attract Japanese business to Florida. When I had a talk with Governor some time ago, I asked him why the business are coming into Florida. He said that he's doing good governance. I couldn't say no to that. It's great. Less tax, more business-friendly environment. That's great to see. I believe the presence of Japanese companies in local economies, Florida economy, not just in Florida, but around the country, has become the foundation of Japan-U.S. economic partnership. Back in the 1980s and 90s, the relationship was not one of trade frictions. As was introduced, I was doing a lot of work related to trade negotiation with the United States in my capacity as the Director for American Affairs and Director for Business and Economic Affairs. It was a hard time, difficult time, but today it is one of the cooperation. It is a very good, positive relationship. As you know, this Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement symbolizes this cooperation. About a month ago, after 8 years of effort, these trade ministers of 12 nations concluded the negotiation. I saw in the paper that Michael Froman, the United States Trade Representative, got only 8 hours of sleep in 5 days as he hammered out final details of the agreement. I and Mike Froman started our encounter 3 years ago when I came to Washington, D.C. as an ambassador. At the time, we were trying to negotiate the terms of Japanese government coming into the negotiation. We came late. The American government put a high hurdle for us to get in. So my first job as ambassador was to negotiate with Mike Froman the terms of our entry into the agreement or negotiations. That was not easy. We were screaming to each other, and I hated him actually. But then he told me, Ambassador, your work is not to negotiate. You are the ambassador. So the ambassador role is different from being negotiating with me. You have to be kind to the United States. Oh, so 3 years has passed since that time. And I met him 2 weeks ago in a breakfast meeting which was hosted the ambassador of Peru in his house. There were 12 nations representative ambassadors coming to have breakfast with my foreigner. And obviously he was happy he could come to Peru. He was a totally different man when I saw 3 years ago. Now, finally, I'd like to close by saying a few words about a man named George Morikami. I believe General Snowden would have liked him very much. Back in 1906, this George Morikami moved from Japan to the Yamato colony in southern Florida, which was a colony of Japanese farmers. The colony's farming endeavors ultimately failed. As a result, only a few Japanese settlers remained. Mr. Morikami remained in Florida for the rest of his life. During World War II, the U.S. government seized his land and that of the remaining Yamato colonists to create an Army Air Corps training base. After the war, he bought land near Delray Beach. In 1974, Mr. Morikami, who remained a bachelor all his life, donated his 200 acres to Palm Beach County, which used this land to create the Morikami Museum. It remained the nation's only public museum and garden devoted solely to Japanese culture. Before coming to the United States, I didn't know about this. And I know this one. It's a great story. Mr. Morikami died a year after the groundbreaking. I wish he could know that today 180,000 people at 120 schools visit the museum each year. I wish this simple farmer could see the beautiful garden and exhibition that his generosity inspired. Although the colony of Japanese farmers disappeared, the example of Mr. Morikami's friendship remains. As an example of General Snowden's friendship. Because of wise and generous men like General Snowden and Mr. Morikami, Japanese and Americans become closer with every generation. They have built a foundation of trust and values upon which our economies and our security now depend. Now it is for us to carry on. Ladies and gentlemen, your presence here today tells me that you desire also to do that. So thank you for coming and thank you for listening and thank you for your kind hospitality here in Tallahassee. Thank you very much.